All right, guys, here we go. Super excited about this one. So, I want to welcome everyone to the Lift Others Up podcast. I am so excited to have Dan McCormick live with us here today. And Dan is highly sought after author, speaker, super successful entrepreneur. His mission is to inspire individuals to align their lives with purpose, responsibility, vision, and principles of greatness. And Dan is the author of a new book, Awakening Who I Am. And I've been working on this, Dan, both reading it and listening to it. I also went to affirmim.com and did the meditation. And I'll tell you what, I feel like this is not just a life-changing book, it's an opportunity to really dig in. And I was listening to it on a walk today, and I thought, man, I need to really dive. I need to study this, like not just read it or listen to it. I need to study it. So I'm just so excited to get into it with you. So Dan McCormick, thank you so much for hopping on and honoring us with your time. I'm just beyond excited to talk with you today.
Well, it's always fun when good friends introduce good friends, right? So we had a great friend, common great friend. I mentioned him in my book, and I just love Fred Elias, and anybody that Fred loves, I love. And so it's just great to be able to be on with you. We've talked on the phone a time or two, texted a time or two, followed you on Facebook, and I'm just excited to be with you today.
Awesome. Can't wait to get into this. And so if you don't mind, I know a lot of times we kind of start with the story, right? If you wouldn't mind kind of sharing your story, maybe your introduction into the world of network marketing, but wherever that begins for you or whatever you want to share, we'd love to start there.
Yeah, it's a story of difficulty. It's a story of real hardship, a story of memories of a childhood that was really hard, watching my mom and dad not get along. My brother and I didn't know how to treat each other. We fought. We were both competitive athletes, and he was much bigger than me, 3 years younger, but he played college football. But it was hard. It was very difficult. I got a job in if anybody knows the NBA, I worked for the Seattle Supersonics Racket and Health Club in the Bellevue, Kirkland area. And I got at the age of 12, my first job, making a whopping $2.35 an hour. But it wasn't money; it was credit. I got to work hours in order to change, because obviously you have to play indoors if you're going to be a tennis player in Seattle. It's a lot of rain. So I got that job, and I had to learn. And it was long. It was hard. It was difficult. I wasn't good at it. I didn't know I wasn't good at it. I had a lot of blind spots as a young person. I had a hard time reading. I had a hard time learning. So just very difficult. The only place I really felt good about me was on any athletic court, field, ballpark, you name it. So I grew up in a tennis club, and I met an individual that asked me to build tennis courts with him. He owned his construction company, Mid-Pac Tennis in Seattle. And he came right up to me one day, violated my airspace, and he says, "Hey, I need a laborer this summer. I'll pay you $5 an hour. It's my final year of high school." I say, "Sure." And he taught me something. And what he taught me was hard work. And he taught me diligence, promptness, always do the job better than you're paid to do the job. And I will never forget that my entire life. He had a business partner named Al, who was the number one tennis player in the Northwest. Every year he wanted to be number one. Literally year after year after year, he was the top player in the Northwest. He was just that good. So I went off to Washington State University. And when we're in live studio audiences, I always ask audiences, how many have had a college experience, and you want to raise your hand if you have. And, a few people raise their hands, and I say, well, how many finished in 2 weeks? And, you can get a chuckle out of that, because it's a paradigm that I didn't appreciate at the time. But I finished in 2 weeks. Now, that's called dropping out in the real world. But I had to change the paradigm. Went home, got a reckless driving ticket on the way, got my job back building tennis courts the next summer, making $6 an hour. And then an ad showed up in the newspaper that said, "Are you making what you're worth?" I live in Beverly Hills, California. I drive a Clen A, and I made $96,000 in the health and nutrition industry in the last 6 months on supervisory positions available. Man, Dusty, I stared at that ad with so much anticipation. I knew my life was going to change, but I didn't have the confidence to call. What was I going to tell them? 2 weeks of college, construction worker, and 3 days later, the ad was still in the paper. I called. Somebody took my name and number. They called me back. This gentleman said, "Come meet me at 11 a.m. tomorrow at the Greenwood Inn." I did. He said, "Come to a meeting tomorrow night." bring people. I did, and that was how it started for me. And I found that night, going out of that room that held maybe 30 or 40 people, this man put a set of training cassette tapes in my hand called Millionaire Training, which was where Larry Thompson and Mark Hughes founded Herbalife. They had these incredible training modules, if you will. And it was the beginning of my journey. I couldn't sleep. I had so much adrenaline. And that night, they also put a book in my hand, Larry, a man named Larry, called The Greatest Salesman in the World. And so that's how it started, and that's where the journey began. And certainly that didn't make life easier, but I had a vision for what my life could be.
Wow, that's incredible. So that book you just held up, I have one here with me as well. And this is pretty cool, right? Because my mentor, who you're my mentor's mentor, which I love. I love getting to know who my mentors are learning from. And so this is really special for me. So we're talking about Fred Elias. Freddie's like a big brother to me. It's really helped me out with mindset. But he actually, this book's really special to me because for those of you that are able to actually see, he wrote in my book like a special message to me. When we first met, and handed this to me. And so what's amazing? It's an incredible story, right? But what's amazing is I talked about how the book that you co-authored here is a book that I feel like is worth studying and digging into. And one of the first things I learned about you, even before I met you, was how much this book impacted your life. And what I really respect, because there's endless amount of books to read, right? You could read a new book every day. But you dedicated a large portion of your life to this book and the lessons in this book. And I think that's pretty special. So can you talk about why it had so much impact and then where you went with this book from there and the different things you did with it?
Yeah, I think everything starts with need. I had a need for this book. I couldn't read very well. I couldn't retain very well. But when my mom taught me to read the sports page, it's when I realized that there was something there for me. I could memorize statistics, even to this day, from 1973, Big Red Machine, Cincinnati Reds baseball. I can remember all the starters and the averages and so on with the Seattle Supersonics in the 70s and the NBA championship team and all the stuff. I can remember some crazy weird stuff. Like my family can't believe what I remember. But back then I couldn't. And it was an interesting thing for me to read from the paradigm of an alcoholic. Now that's Og Mandino writing a book as an alcoholic, right? He's writing a parable, if you will, where you could literally change your life in short order. And he learned from Ben Franklin. Ben wrote about the 13 virtues. Og writes about the 10 scrolls. That first scroll is today I begin a new life. Well, that's what an alcoholic has to do. The second scroll really hit me hard because I didn't understand love. I think most people misunderstand love. And I am blown away at the word love. Now, I look at the word in Greek. You look at the different forms of love in Greek, right? You can look at philia, which means brotherly love. And I think Og's teaching us with brotherly love when he talks about, I will greet this day with love in my heart. There's eros, which is romantic love. There's agape, which is godly love. And there's other forms, of course. But that is what really got me. And I felt like that was the biggest void in my life. So that's really what I woke up to for the better part of 40 years. Every single morning thinking I will greet this day with love in my heart. Muscle can split a shield and even destroy life. But only the unseen power of love can open the hearts of men and women. And until I master this art, I will remain no more than a peddler in the marketplace. And that really stuck with me. And then you go on to the next scroll, I will persist until I succeed. And then the transition for me. What happened to me 3 years ago is this unbelievable plateau that I was on. Like literally, I was on a plateau. Dusty wouldn't know it. Fred wouldn't know it. Others wouldn't know it. But I knew it. Because you know when you're not growing. You know when you're plateauing. And I've been plateauing for years, maybe 10 years, 12 years. And all of a sudden, I walk into a convention, and there's a book on the counter called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. I hadn't read it, but I had posted about it on my Facebook page. And lo and behold, I went home that Sunday evening after that convention weekend, And I thought, this guy's real. Like, this is unbelievable how genuine, authentic he is. So I watched the movie that he made that was on, I think it's on Vimeo, it's on, Amazon or whatever. And you watch that documentary and you realize this is a genuine, authentic giant. My energy changed, my frequency changed, my vibration changed, my expectation changed, my intention changed. And lo and behold, that was approximately 30 some odd months ago now. I started telling the world about this guy. And next thing you know, I finally found somebody that could introduce me to him. Andrea Waltz, who wrote Go for No, introduced me to Hal through another friend. And lo and behold, it just changed my world in such dramatic fashion to understand the savers that it led me to write my own book and to piggyback a little bit on Miracle Morning, but be more specific about what Og said in the fourth scroll. Because it's the only scroll that Og wrote that actually had an I am affirmation aspect to it. Because Og wasn't an affirmation guy, he was a scroll guy. So when you get to the fourth scroll and it says, I am nature's greatest miracle, it had such an impact on me that I wanted to be mindful of that every day. So I actually made a coin, and I sell these coins on my website because I want people to wake up every day and say, I am a magnet for miracles. Einstein said, we either believe everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle, and we want to wake up with that. So I had my grandkids here last week, and my 3-year-old grandson's at the top of the stairs. When I woke up in the morning, and when he woke up, he's sitting at the top of the stairs, and he says, Grandpa, I'm a magnet for miracles. 3-year-old, first words out of his mouth. I got goosebumps telling you the story because on the other side of the coin is the I am affirmations that are in my book. And I want to be able to feel those. We can talk about it later. But this book was the power to get me into the learning to love to read. Readers are leaders, leaders are readers. My wife's family, my wife's dad, his business class, his book club up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, was all about books. It was Zig Ziglar, it was Dennis Waitley, it was Og Mandino, it was Jim Rohn, all these kind of guys. And so here we are today, and I knew one thing, that after 40 years of studying those scrolls, that what got me here won't get me there. And when you said at the outset that you're going to realize that this book, the greatest, or the Awakening Who I Am, is something to study, I can sit here today and tell you that it is my favorite book ever penned now, because it's 2 words. The subtitle is 2 words to ignite your transformation. And if you recognize the power of I am and what follows I am follows you, you'll realize and never forget that message. You'll never forget it because it's only 2 words.
So powerful. Yeah, so from Og Mandino to the Miracle Morning, and in preparation for this, I watched the movie, and it's
Wow.
amazing story, right? But what I love about this is, the Og book, The Greatest Salesman in the World. You dedicated part of your life to really internalizing it, studying it, probably reading it how it's prescribed to read, and then the Miracle Morning, got you off that plateau, and then to your own creation, right? Because you are a creator, and I am a creator, right? So that's what I love, is that, not only is the book that you penned now your favorite book, but when I was listening to it on my walk today, walking through the woods, it was before I went to the website, affirmiam.com, and I thought, man, he's got to teach a course on this. Like, it would just be an amazing. Yeah. And then, of course, I go to the website. It's there. It's something you're doing, and I think that's just awesome. So, I would love to get into, some of the affirmations, and I'd love to kind of preface it with this. So I had shared with you before that I was watching some podcasts you were on, and you shared a story about jumping off a plateau. And it was just the way you said it. It created this image in my mind where, I've hit plateaus in my life, and when I think about plateaus, it's like you're climbing this mountain and you get stuck, and you're looking for the way up. And never in my thoughts did it ever occur that you have to go down to go up, right? Or that you have to jump off a plateau. So it was just kind of this picture you painted with words that was really powerful for me. And as I was listening today on my walk, I had this thought about identity. And I can't even reference what you said or where you said it, but I've struggled with identity my whole life. And this thought came to me, and again, it's definitely connected to what you were saying. And the thought was, instead of spending so much time thinking about like who am I really, and what is my identity, I can choose to spend more time on well, who do I want to be? Like, what do I want my identity to be? And then I can do the right affirmations. I can develop the right habits to become the person that I long to be versus trying to figure out who I am. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, this is like the epidemic of our day is probably anxiety and identity. And
Yeah.
so if there was ever anything for you to doubt, Price Pritchett says in U Squared, doubt your limits.
Hmm.
Don't doubt anything else. And Bruce
Yeah.
Lee said that, look, if you're ever going to say anything negative about yourself, don't do it because your body doesn't know the difference. That's why it's called spelling. You cast a spell on yourself. If you say, I'm fat, I'm sick, I'm lazy, I'm tired, I'm not beautiful, all that stuff, you're casting that spell instead of knowing that God would never do that. He would never want you to do that. That's why you carry this coin with you. That's why you never miss a day of waking up and clutching that coin and saying, I am a creator. When we started the book, this is really cool, man. I can tell you, I can geek out on this stuff for 3 hours. So you just tell me when. But what's so fascinating is I really love the book by Ryan Holiday called Perennial Seller. And what Ryan Holiday is asking us to do is ask the question, what are you doing today that'll have value 10 years from now? And I ask you, what are you thinking today that'll have value 10 years from now? And so when I opened that first page in the book, I wanted to do something different because Ryan Holiday gave me some inspiration to say, I want to invite every single person that ever buys this book, opens this book, reads this book. I don't want them to do any of that. I want them to study it. I want them to co-author it. And that's why I put that, you're the co-creator of the journey right here. When I did my podcast with Hal Elrod on his show, you listen to him talk about, I'm writing this stuff down. You're having an impact on me. And so I am a co-creator. Every time I do a podcast, every time I meet people, teach this. I was teaching a class last weekend, 10 days ago, a group of individuals that pay $30,000 a year to be coached by this friend of mine. And they all met at his ranch, 28,000 acre ranch. And he says, look, Danny, he says, I want you to take 3 hours and teach this stuff. And it was just unbelievable to be able to get into that kind of depth. And I hope that people are watching today that they can know that you're just as worthy, deserving, and capable as anyone else on the planet. And do not let the world win. Do not let those thoughts go down that whole rabbit hole. And you mentioned the word plateau. I use it all the time. And the great book that was written 2008 called Peaks and Valleys is really, really important to understand that. So I really encourage people that to wake up every morning, to look at that coin, to feel it, to write it, to touch it, to taste it, to smell it, to share it. And that is to say, I am a creator. And that will change the paradigm. And the reason it changes the paradigm is this. Every night you and I go to bed, there's a process going on in our brain called neurogenesis. And what that is we wake up tomorrow morning with new baby nerve cells. Are you going to risk the negativity of the world by turning on social? By going to email? By looking at the news? No way. First thoughts, first light, first things, first writings always start with I am affirmations, right? And so you want neurogenesis working for you, not against you. You want affirmations stacking for your benefit every day, not defamations pulling you down every day. And that's why I'm so stoked about what this is, because it's 2 words, man. It's 2 words for everybody to change their life, and they can 10x their life starting right now today by 10xing the quality of your thoughts.
It's beautiful. So I went to the website, put in my email, and I got the guided affirmation. And I was doing this just a couple hours ago, so it wasn't first thing in the morning. But I'll tell you what, the guided affirmation is amazing because it spends some time kind of getting you into the proper state, right? Mm-hmm. Which I think is so important because I've tried affirmations before and at different times in my life, and a lot of them just like jump right in, you know. And the older I get and the more experience I have, I realize how important your state is, right? And that's why I imagine first thing in the morning is so important as well, right?
Yeah,
Because
neurogenesis, first
yeah,
thing in the morning. We can look in the New Testament. Even Jesus goes in the book of Mark. He goes off in the distance in the hills to be quiet, to find peace and time and quietness and stillness and all that. It's a huge thing. It's a huge thing why mornings work. Now, not everybody has to love mornings because there's some that don't. I mean, we're in the world of direct selling and network marketing, and I mean, I have friends that have made tens of millions of dollars and they like to get up at the crack of 10. But everybody has their own deal. I just like this morning for me, it was 4:30. My wife says, "Why so early?" Because usually it's 5. And I'm like, I woke up. My brain said, "Let's go. Let's get the neurogenesis working, and let's get everything happening." So anyway, I just love this. I'm
yeah,
glad. There is a story behind that affirmation. 18 minutes, if you'd like me to share it.
yeah.
Was in the middle of writing the book, and I was like you. My brain was busy and overactive, struggling to quiet the mind and give it the space that it deserved to find stillness, quietness. Even the book of Psalms says, "In his law doth he meditate day and night." And you just go, wow, okay, we're supposed to do this. Even David talked about it in Psalms, right? So I reached out to a videographer and I said, "Look, I've got a script here. I'd like you to make an affirmation video for me." And it came back at 14 minutes. I started sharing it with people, and I just felt like it was a little rushed. And then I went on a podcast. I had her redo it and expand the spacing. And it came back to me at 18 minutes. And I went on a podcast, and this gentleman messaged me on Facebook, and he says, "Dan," he says, "how did you know to do 18 minutes? And he said, "My background is of the Hebrew faith. And do you know what 18 means?" And I said, "No." He said, "It means life." He says, "You've given me for the first time in my life the best way to start my day in the morning." I've always struggled with that. And I thought, wow, I thought 18 was because I love golf. I got 18 holes going on there. I got the average length of a TED Talk is like 18 minutes.
Hmm.
But guess what else 18 is? 1% of your day. Wow.
Hmm.
What if you could take 1% of your day to prioritize being more prepared than 95% of the people in the world? You will 10x your life. I listen to that every day, and it's 18 minutes. And some days I hear sounds that I didn't hear. Some days I hear words. I repeat words and phrases the way I haven't heard it. And I've listened to it more than anybody. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. It will change people's lives.
That's interesting. I was going to ask you about that because I was wondering if you still use that because I imagine, you know, authoring this and experiencing this and utilizing this that you don't necessarily need to be guided at this point, right? Like you can do this without the guide, but it's really cool that you still do that. And again, I think
Well, there's a huge phrase that we
yeah,
want all of our listeners to write down in this. And it's not like they haven't heard this before, but there's a reason for it. Why did Ben Franklin do the 13 virtues for 64 years of his life? The last 64 years, every day, he's going through those 13 virtues, right? One per week. Imagine this phrase: repetition is the mother of skill. You can't think that Og was saying, read this book one time. You can't think that Hal was saying, he wants you to remember the savers, right? And so I'm just honored by your awareness of all of that. But it comes down to this should be dog-eared, written in, notified, bent, everything you can do to pick up a nugget. And I love it when people write their reviews on Amazon. I'll look forward to yours as well. But I love, love, love when people say, wow, I was bummed when the book was over. I just wanted to keep reading. I felt so good reading it. I just love when people say that.
yeah. And then you tell them read it again, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like me.
So this is I don't know if you've been asked this before or if you've talked about this before, but this is kind of personal for me. So I was raised Christian my whole life, right? And when I was younger, I feel like the idea of affirmations kind of seemed new age, right? And maybe this is a little
Yeah.
nuanced of a conversation. And it almost seemed like at that age and my understanding of God, when people talked about the universe, I was like, oh, they're replacing God with the universe. Right now that I'm older, getting more experience, seeking, reading more, I see how much this lines up. And you've already referenced, the Bible several times. And obviously the story of the Greatest Salesman is, for people, I don't want to ruin it, but I mean, is an incredible story that references the Bible as well. So this is something I've struggled with in the past, and in reading this and studying this and talking with you, I'm just realizing how much this lines up with my faith, and where when I was younger, it wasn't a feeling I had, it was how I was made to feel by other people, right? Like, oh, that's not good, right? And it's like they were holding me back from something that could have potentially, probably would have brought me closer to God.
Well, I can tell you that when you look at the book of Joel in the Old Testament, he says, I am strong. When you look at Exodus 15:26, and you see, I am the Lord that healeth. We incorporate these things throughout the book, right? So it's the origin of language. It's the two most important words in the world. I means exist, am means with God. So what follows I am follows you. So you want to make sure that you're filtering every single day for the highest quality words, the highest quality thoughts, the highest quality meditation, the highest quality right. You want to be filtering for higher quality all the time. And that is what's going to lead you to reach your goals, to become the person you want to become, the leader you want to lead, the family man you want to become, all of these things. And so I just love that it has, for the believer, it has as deep as you want to go in terms of the meaning, because I means exist, and means with God. What follows I am follows you. So I can say I am a child of God every morning.
No, it's beautiful. And then, speaking of highest quality words, there's another word that I learned from you. I'm gonna let you say it because I'm probably gonna butcher it, but I think you know what I'm talking about. When I got to meet you for the first time, me and you and Freddie were chatting, and I just said, "Hey, it's just such an honor to meet a mentor of my mentor." And you said, starts with a U.
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu, my friend. It's an African proverb that it was. So I had a podcast years ago called The Greatest Salesman. I worked with the Augmentino Company. I hosted 44 episodes, I believe, of truly extraordinary salespeople, including our friend Justin, Fred. I had other top salespeople that just some of them just made so many millions of dollars. It's crazy. And most of them were friends of mine that I either gave the book to, or they read the book or liked the book, and somehow we met, right? But I was interviewing my friend Thomas over in Austria, and he said that was their team's mantra, Ubuntu. And I said, well, what does it mean on the podcast? And he talked about being an African proverb, and that is, I am because of you, and you are because of me. So when we look at that world historically, I would say a lot of people struggle with compliments. Hey, man, you got an incredible podcast, and people minimize it. Hey, you look amazing today. Your family's beautiful. All these different kind of compliments you can give people. I love your car. I mean, all kinds of things. Just say Ubuntu. I am because of you, and you are because of me. It's a beautiful way to affirm another and literally be living and filtering on those higher quality words all the way. So I love the word. I love the story. I love the proverb. Ubuntu to all of our listeners today.
Awesome. So another thing I've struggled with in the past, and you can correct me at any time here if it's okay to talk about, I've struggled in the past. I don't know if that's bad to say now that we're talking about affirmations and the power of words, but I'm making it part of my history, not my future, right? Is this idea, because one of the affirmations talks about I am positive and present. Okay, and as you look behind me here, I've shared the story one other time. I was at a Salvation Army. It's like a Goodwill. It's one of these thrift stores, resale shops, and I came across these two framed works of art. Right. So one is behind me here. It says "Dare to Dream," and the other one says "Live in the Moment." And this is another thing in the past I've struggled with, this idea of living in the moment and daring to dream. Like, is it this one or is it this one? And my brother taught me something. He said the answer to polarity is almost always paradox, meaning when you're presented with this or this, sometimes it's both and, right? And so this idea of being present is something I'm really focusing on, and something that our industry, quite frankly, has allowed me to do. And the other kind of thing I want to add to this is, as you think about your response here, is what I've learned is that when you have a positive outlook on the future, right? When you have when you've designed a future that you're looking forward to, it allows you to be more present in the moment, and that's what's impacted me. Do you kind of agree with that? Is that part of the
Yep.
idea of being present?
Yeah, I'll tell you, this is going to be a lot of fun for us. So the afterword of the book is written by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Okay, 10x is easier than 2x, and being present is a huge deal for him because he talks about the present, he talks about your past and your future. So let's just talk about. First of all, I love the quote that Ben gives from Dan Sullivan, and that is, "The eyes can only see, and the ears can only hear what the brain is looking for." So based on the quality of your questions right here, right now, you wanting to be more present. Look what happens here for all of our listeners today, because probably most people watching today would have some level of anxiety, a busy mind, because they're comparing the past, they're stressed about the present, and they're not sure about the future. And so the way this all changes is for us to make our future bigger. Like, operate from your future self. Like, you're a podcast host that has thousands and tens of thousands of people that watch your shows. You know that your business, it deserves you acting like your future self. So when you do that, when you operate from your future self, and your dreams and your future is so big, then that present just becomes so amazing. And then what we're able to do is look at the past and say, that business deal that went bad on me, that relationship, that person that lied to me, stole from me, cheated on me, relationship, business, finance, school, family, whatever it was, you get to say, that happened for me, not to me. And it's a powerful thing to shift and to make your present better right now. Now, the lady in the book, because in the book, I talk about 7 different spotlight stories, maybe 8, but 7 spotlight stories that are in the book. Now, Amanda is a powerful superhero in the world of direct selling and network marketing. She has an income that is unlike few ever reach what she makes. And she was on my podcast as a greatest salesperson in the world. And she thought it was only the weird people that would go into a self-help section, because she grew up in an okay family. She had a self-image. She thought she was good. She was very well spoken. She was very knowledgeable. The family was professional. And she thought it was just the weird people. And then she said this on the podcast: I am present because I am prioritizing. I take my earbuds out and give my kids space. Even if they're not talking to me, I don't want my earbuds just sitting in my ears. Maybe they won't want to talk to me. So she had this incredible paradigm, and I just love the idea. Make your present better by making your future bigger.
I'm going to write that one down. I love that. So speaking of people you highlighted in the book, another one of our mutual friends, Mitzi Vaughn, and known Mitzi for probably almost 15 years now, and
Wow.
she just got an incredible story, and so I was just so excited, and I've had this conversation with her that she's featured in your book, because I was like, man, what an honor. So that was just so cool to see her in there and see her story in there.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of the people in the book I didn't know. Some I did, of course, but some I didn't. And I just love crossing paths with people that almost everybody at some point, if you're going to go from the past to your present to your future self, you're going to find that place where I am affirmations become important. And that's where all of them played a role in my life. And that's where they were either a story in the book validated for me, like a 15-year-old girl in the I Am Capable. I teach at a little business class, Mission Viejo High School. Brent Pillsbury asked me to come in once a year and talk to the class. And here I have this group a year and a half ago, and 16, 17, 15 to 18-year-old kids. And I said, hey, who here uses affirmations, and a 15-year-old girl raises her hand, and I said, would you mind sharing with us? Teach us. What do you do? She says, I wake up every single morning and I tell myself, I am capable. Now, if you can teach your kids that, and your kids will always know. All of my kids have coins. My grandkids have coins. I want them to feel it. Every day we see each other, I say, hey, what is this? I'm a magnet for miracles, Grandpa. Yes, you are, right? So you want to know that when you're raising your kids, you're raising your grandkids. Stephen Covey taught me that. My wife had Covey as a professor in college. So you'll see a lot of the 7 habits come out of the book as well as you dive through it, right? So appreciate you, in short order, picking up on so many of the nuggets in the book that have been real to me.
Yeah, so you're mentioning the habits you tied in. So I saw that there's visualizations tied in and habits tied in. And when it started getting into that, I was like, man, this is why I need to really study this, because especially if you're listening to it, it's like, this makes a lot of sense, but I want to see it. I want to see it laid out. So if you wouldn't mind, I think you said you have a master class going on, possibly Saturday, but depending on when this is released. But if you wouldn't mind telling people about that,
Yeah.
We'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, part of the master class. When I started the whole book thing, I kind of thinking, okay, can I just go beyond where I am? Can I reach beyond my own circle? Can I find sectors of people that maybe I haven't met and really pour into their life and write a book that would change my life and change theirs, co-create with them. And then, while we were, waiting for the book to come out, we were nearly done with the book, but I started a master class where once a month we would just gather for 30 or 40 minutes and go through affirmations, remind people like Ben Franklin would. And so we have those available on YouTube. You can go to affirmim.com and sign up on the newsletter. So it's usually Saturday morning, 7 a.m. Pacific time. If you're on the email list, we'll shoot you out the Zoom link. And if you miss it, then we send you out the replay version the following week, or it's on our YouTube channel. So it's really important that people have a connection to people that are also chasing that dream of being the best they can be, diving in and reaffirming on a regular basis that you are just as worthy, deserving, and capable as anyone else on the planet to be your very best, to be the best at what you're going to do. Use your own unique identity, your unique skill set that no one else in the world has, and just build on that every single day. So that's what we do, and it's fun to do, and we'll be starting our newsletter and incorporating every aspect of the teachings in the book. And finances is a big deal for a lot of people, so we're going to talk about money management, finances, how you think about money, because I didn't have the right thoughts about money as a kid, but money is abundant. It's out there for everybody if we tune in to the right energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yeah, that community piece you mentioned, being around other people that are all striving to be their best. Me and Freddie were just talking about that today. Actually, we've talked about a lot recently, because when your mindset's tuned in right, when you are being positive, you can find the positive in the most negative situations, and it's just it's been special for me to be connecting with people like Freddie, with people like you. So I even said, if nobody ever listened to these, man, it's tuning me to a whole nother level. And so
100%. If no one reads my book, it changed my life. The book,
yes,
like I tell people, if I never sell another copy of the book, I'm okay, right? Yes, I would like to sell tens of thousands and impact more lives, but the fact of the matter is what it did for my life is just insane. Beautiful.
Yeah. So a couple more things here. I noticed you broke the book down, or the affirmations down, into win the morning, win the day, and win the week and your life. So the affirmations, 3 are in win the morning, 3 are in win the day, and then there's 1 in win the week in your life. Can you kind of explain how you laid that out? Because I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, so obviously go back to neurogenesis, first things first, thoughts, right? I am a creator. I am intentional. I am present. Win the morning. I am worthy, capable, and compassionate. Win the day. I am a finisher. Just a critical lesson, an unbelievable message there from one of the greatest business minds that I ever worked with, partnered with, flew with, traveled with, etc. Nathan Ricks. Just unbelievable. He was just an incredible finisher. And the way to be a better finisher is to start fewer things and to remind yourself, just like the coin does, that you are a finisher. I get to say that. I get to affirm that. I get to think about that. And so we do want to win the day. We want to win the week. We want to win our life. And the way you do that is by staying consistent with the principles of I am affirmations and constantly be looking to exactly what your sign says behind you. Lift others up. And where does that start? The law of lift starts with you. You know, all of these things start with you. You put the mask on first, right on the airplane. You always do your first thoughts, your first writings. All these things start by you being proactive, as Stephen Covey would say in habit number 2, right? Habit number 1, begin with the end in mind and then be proactive. So what we're talking about here is really not a short-term fix. It's a lifelong program.
That's beautiful. Yeah, man, I got so many things rattling through my head during this conversation, because not only was I learning listening, but I'm obviously learning listening to you now, and I'm excited just to go back and listen to a lot of nuggets in here, man, because it's full of them. So I was watching you on another podcast. I wanted to touch on this because you mentioned it's something I'm really excited about, and I saw you pull out this little book, and it was hard. I know mine's a lot harder to see than yours was, but whenever I see somebody that I really respect and want to learn from flash a book, I'm like, all right, how do I get that? I'll tell you what, this was hard to get. This is not something that's out there too much. So I was talking to you about Jim Rohn, and we were just talking about the amazing ability he had to express just super impactful meaning in these short sentences or short sayings, And you mentioned a project you're working on that I'm super excited about. I don't know if you'd like to share that, but I'd love to hear that again.
Well, Jim is truly. I was blessed to be with him, travel the world with him. But I was in my 20s. I didn't realize I was traveling the world with an icon. I knew he was great, but an icon of that epic proportion. So, yeah, part of my newsletter, part of my group, when they go to Affirm I Am, and my subscribers, my future master classes, and all the things we'll be doing, we'll be incorporating a lot of very unique Jim Rohn stuff that is set to a frequency called 432. And when we get the right vibration and energy, we say Bob Proctor would say it, Nikola Tesla would say it, Einstein, all these great people back in the day would say that, look, energy is everything, right? I mean, Michael Saylor, the largest Bitcoin holder in the world, it's financial energy. So we look at these words, these energy, and say, can I set all of his sayings and phrases to 432 hertz? So we're going to have those kinds of things be a part of what we're doing in the future, and it's going to be brilliant. Powerful, awesome, impactful, life-changing. And I just love the one line that he gives here in the book. He says, give a lecture to 1,000 people. One walks out and says, I'm going to change my life. Another walks out with a yawn and says, I've heard all this before. Right? Then in his next quote, he says, the millionaire says to 1,000 people, I read this book and it started me on the road to wealth. Guess how many people go out and buy the book? Very few. Right? Isn't that incredible? Why wouldn't everyone get the book? Right? There's going to be people watching this. Why wouldn't everyone get the book? It's like pennies to add to your library, and the greatest investment you can ever make is in yourself. And that's part of your library. And hopefully we've said some things here today that can have an impact on a lot of people's libraries.
Well, I'll tell you what, you've listened to enough Jim Rohn, certainly, to be able to sound just like him. That's awesome.
Well, I have fun with that because his voice is one of my favorites.
Yeah. He's a special guy for sure. One of the things I think that had the most impact on me is for things to change, you have to change, and for things to get better, you have to get better. And there's a saying, right? Like, simplicity is the greatest sophistication, which just means, like, man, sometimes the simple things that if you can actually grasp, it's kind of like the quote you just shared, right? Like, it's the simple stuff, man, that if you'll just do it, if you'll just grab the book and do the affirmations and dive into this stuff, it can change your whole life. So, Dan, we're going to wrap up here, and I'll ask you one more question. Before I hit that question, though, is there one particular thing you want to leave people with, right? If there's something we didn't cover that's on your heart or anything that you want to share, now's a great time.
I will say that one of the quotes that really impacted the depth of the book was re-listening to James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. And in that book, he quotes Naval Ravikant, a very, very wealthy man in the Bay Area. incredible investor, philosopher, teacher, writer, etc. What Naval Ravikant said is, in order to write a great book, you have to become the book. And that was a game changer for me to really look at. Am I ready for this, to teach this? And I had to go deeper. I had to peel away the onion. I had to really ponder, pray, meditate. Can we get better at this? And in order to live a great life, you've got to be able to become the book. And that's where genuine authenticity comes in. That's why people are cherished when they love genuine, authentic people. And you know that on stage they're just as beautiful and authentic as they are when they're not on stage. And so that is one that I always find to be of great meaning to me.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, what a great book to become, right? Awakening Who I Am, 2 words to ignite your transformation. Man, I love the subtitle there too. Beautiful. Okay, so lastly, to wrap things up here, I always ask my guests towards the end, pressure's on. If you can think of, one person who you think really embodies what lifting others up is all about, that I might be able to get into the studio here that I can share with my audience. Anybody comes to mind that you can think of?
Well, I've got a phone with thousands of people in it, and I can think of a lot of people, but I can think of one that you would really love having on your podcast. He's not only been a corporate owner, he's been a distributor, a coach, a trainer, an author. He traveled the world. He knows as much about network marketing and direct selling as anyone on the planet, self-help, personal development. He's amazing. Lives in Lanai, Hawaii. His name is Richard Brook. So I would recommend, and I'll put you in touch with Richard Brook. You'll love it.
Awesome. Well, I can imagine if he's in your Rolodex and somebody you respect, man, I'd love to meet him. So, Dan, I appreciate you so much. As I said at the outset, like getting to just spend time with one of my mentors and get to know you a little bit has been just so special for me and such an honor. So thank you so much for writing the book. Thank you for becoming the book. And thank you for being willing to teach people, not just put a book out, but teach people, how to really internalize this, use it, and how to change their lives. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing with our podcast with Lift Others Up today. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate y'all. Look forward to sharing the journey with everybody.